Thank you for joining JTV News. I'm Peter Gay Coombs, and here are the headlines. BVI Premier says the country's financial services is taking a beating from external shocks and tough decisions will have to be made.
Whatever belt-tightening we must do, it will not come at the expense of the common man and woman.
But the opposition leader says the Premier's speech was sheer nonsense and an attempt to pull the wool over his countrymen's eyes.
He told us all that the economy was robust. Now reality sets in and he is appealing to our sensitivities.
The National Insurance Scheme is fed up of the non-payment of employee contributions by local businesses, and BVI bloggers are getting on the people's skin.
I know it gets hyped to your website or to your news outlet or wherever the outlet is, but are we going to destroy a society just for a temporary gain?
In Caribbean news, quake shakes up Trinidad and Tobago, and Cuban businesses are already lobbying President-elect Trump. In our medical segment, if you're one of those people who sometimes have a hard time decoding the dates on food packages, then our Mayo Clinic Minute is just for you. Dr. Geronimo Jones will have that report. I'll be back with the news in detail after this short break.
Get set for a super fast Christmas with Flow Broadband. Sign up now and get free installation and Wi-Fi modem as our gift to you. Upgrade your speed for just $5 extra per month for 3 months. Plus, a chance to win a special free gift. All this and much more with Flow this wonderful Christmas. Visit us in store today.
'Cause it's the most wonderful time of the year.
And now the news. We begin with news on the economy. In a national address just in time for the holidays and which sought to lay economic signposts for the new year, Premier Dr. D. Orlando Smith attempted to answer some of the questions being asked by his countrymen about the state of the BVI's economy. Trying times, new normal. Those are two of the phrases Premier of the British Virgin Islands Dr. D. Orlando Smith emphasized during his address to the nation on Tuesday evening. In the 21 minutes long speech aired on both radio and television, Dr. Smith, who also has responsibility for the finance portfolio, made a case for why the BVI's economy continues to struggle, as well as the underlying causes of the recent fallout within the financial services sector. But first, he began by explaining why the 2017 budget, which was due last month, will be delayed until the start of the new year.
This year, we will be submitting our budget somewhat later than is customary, likely in January. While a December budget is ideal, budgets may be submitted after that time, and indeed have been submitted by both sides of the aisle as late as April. We want to take our time in reviewing the allocations to the various programs that are carried on to ensure the most efficient use of government resources. And this includes developing a capital program. There are a number of critical decisions that have to be made on this front, and we don't want to make hasty judgments.
Now, while he didn't provide any figures, the Premier indicated that earnings from the financial services industry took a hit this year, as one catastrophes such as the global economic crisis continue to have a ripple effect on the country's financial center 8 years later, and a situation, Dr. Smith says, is further compounded by regulators in the US, UK and Europe and the Panama Papers debacle.
Billions of dollars in fines were imposed upon these companies. Suddenly, the banks that do business here in the BVI were concerned not just about serving their customers and clients, but also about the risk in their operations, which is another way of saying they wanted to make sure they did nothing to offend their regulators. In this context, banks began reconsidering how they do business here in the BVI and in other jurisdictions, and some banks began exiting the region entirely. That situation became significantly more difficult with the publication of the so-called Panama Papers.
In spite of the challenges, Premier Smith says there is a three-pronged approach that is currently underway, geared at 1, reviewing, 2, lobbying and promoting the BVI's financial industry as, quote, a force of good in the world, end quote, and 3, diversifying services offered in the financial sector.
Earlier this year, we commissioned a study by Capital Economics out of the UK to determine the contribution that BVI financial services make to the global economy. The results of that study will be ready for the inclusion in my next budget address. No system is perfect. Indeed, no jurisdiction in the world could make that claim.
Dr. Smith assured that any belt tightening which will be taking place in the near future will be done in a manner in line with his party's election campaign promise to, as he put it, plan for the future and not just spend for the day.
Whatever belt tightening we must do, it will not come at the expense of the common man or woman. We will not be cutting core services or reducing our investment in your children's schools, in your healthcare, in your roads or infrastructure, on helping grow your businesses and your economy.
But when all was said and done, the Premier maintained that not only is he confident in the pillars on which the BVI's economy is based, but in the resiliency and strength of its people and their ability to unite against all odds. The tourism portfolio held by Premier Dr. D. Orlando Smith was heavily focused on during his national broadcast earlier this week. Dr. Smith emphasized that the BVI's natural resources and beauty must also be given pride of place amid sustainable development. He added that it is with this in mind that developments such as the cruise pier and park and agreements with Disney and Norwegian Cruises were signed, as well as the Prison Museum launched on December 6, 2016. The tourism industry is one of two planks which continues to prop up the economy of the British Virgin Islands. In delivering his address to the nation on Tuesday, the Premier made it clear that while the diversification of the local tourism product is a priority, this will not be done at the expense of the environment. Young people in the BVI are also high on the agenda, with the creation of an expedited hospitality program to arm them with the necessary skills to secure employment in the tourism sector. But with all the grand plans to add value to the BVI's tourism chain, reliable airlift to the country remains a challenge. Dr. Smith says another air travel deal is in the works in addition to the controversial $7 million airlift agreement with BVI Airways.
We have begun a program to subsidize connecting flights by one of our own companies from Antigua to make air access to the territory more convenient and affordable. We are continuing to move forward with plans to launch BVI Airways, which will for the first time in recent history offer direct flights from the U.S. mainland to the BVI.
The Premier provided an update on several properties in which the government has intervened.
Working with the ownership of Byers Creek and their legal team, we have resolved that property's challenges, and I'm expecting it will soon reopen, fully restored to its former glory at one of the territory's premier hotels. The work at the Yacht Club Costa Esmeralda, as promised, will be completed by the end of this year. A new and expanded facility on Virgin Gorda will open in January of next year. The decision by Rosewood Little Dix to close for renovations earlier this year was a tough one, which obviously impacted the staff. However, we ensured that as many of them as possible were redeployed, and I'm pleased to report that work on the renovation is well underway. When Little Dix reopened in 2018 as a refurbished Rosewood property, one of the world's most esteemed high-end destination brands, it will truly reflect the best of the BVI.
The tourism minister said the aim is to make all these developments work for the economy.
We are therefore working hard to improve these amenities. For instance, in Rotong, we opened the Prison Museum just today, and as you would have observed, we are working hard to complete the improvements to Brandywine Beach. Visitors to our shores translate to opportunities for taxi and tour operators, our local businesses and restaurants, and it also improves the likelihood of these guests returning one day to hotels and resorts as overnight visitors.
Dr. Smith argued that despite the critics, his administration is convinced that they are implementing sound, strategic, and necessary programs in the best interest of the economy.
Had we listened to the naysayers and declined to build a new cruise pier, or if we had shied away from taking on the difficult task of expanding the airport, or if we had neglected to bring to our shores more hotel developments, then today we'll be facing an uncertain future for the tourism sector.
The Premier's presentation has not gone down well with Leader of the Opposition, Julian Fraser, who says he doesn't understand Dr. Smith's about-face in not only blaming the 2008 economic downturn for the country's current woes, as well as a notice that more belt-tightening is on the way.
I find for the Premier to be blaming the recession of 2008 for the current financial woes of the territory in 2016 to be disingenuous and a definite non-starter, given his categoric denouncement of the VIP government of the period for their rightful association of the territory's economic challenges with the very worldwide phenomenon of 2008. The audacity of our leader to make a national address telling us that, quote, "We are living through challenges that can best be described as the new norm," end quote, and at the same time promising that his government will ensure that the common people and core services are not negatively affected by whatever belt-tightening measures may be implemented. When truly, all along, he has been telling us that the economy is robust.
Mr. Fraser says the Premier's argument that the Panama Papers saga and de-risking measures are severely impacting the financial sector are too late in coming and found him wanting.
The beating he claims that financial services is taking at the hands of the Panama Papers is something he should have seen coming, given that the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists has been clear and relentless in their pursuit of money launderers and tax evaders, with the BVI being one of their main targets. Likewise, the reality of de-risking and its impact should not be a surprise, because the cause was a calculated risk he took after being warned and advised of the potential fallout if he failed to establish a beneficial ownership register.
The opposition leader says he's convinced the Premier is withholding vital information from the country.
Claiming the need to recalibrate expenditure to the realities of revenue, one must ask who's really advising the Premier on the finances of the territory, when considering that a sitting of the House of Assembly was already scheduled for November 21st, the purpose of which was to deliver the 2017 budget address. Didn't he know all this then? What could have changed in his revenue projections since then? I am concerned that the Premier knows far more than he's letting on, and that we might be in for far more rougher ride than we think.
Mr. Fraser did not allow Dr. Smith to skate on the turn of events involving the Rosewood Little Resort, which the Premier said would reopen in 2018.
The Premier has a tendency to assume that we are not paying attention. Case in point is the way he plays down the impact the closure of Rosewood Little Dixby has on the economy of Virgin Gorda and the BVI as a whole, by pretending that only the 132 employees were affected and how hard his government is working to place them. I recently learned that one vendor to Little Dixby alone has lost sales value several $100,000 over the period.
Still to come on JTV News, employers' non-payment of national health insurance contributions hit their employees hard. An update on that deadly motor vehicle crash in Virgin Gorda last week.
Just after 6 o'clock, he received a call from a tourist at Savannah Bay, and he said that he saw a vehicle hurtling over a cliff.
And BVI bloggers getting heat for taking things too far.
Are we going to destroy a society just for a temporary gain?
Plus hot trends with Sophie B. But first, other news making headlines in the Caribbean.
Here in the Virgin Islands, we are blessed to live and work in paradise. Paradise just doesn't mean our tranquil blue waters and green hills. National Bank of the Virgin Islands defines paradise as any place or condition that fulfills your aspirations. To me, paradise means knowing that I will have a financing partner when I'm ready to open my first business. I feel confident that I can manage whatever life throws my way because I know my bank will be with me every step of the way. That's why I choose National Bank of the Virgin Islands, the official bank of paradise.
My future's looking so bright, 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 with the official bank of paradise, paradise.
National Bank of the Virgin Islands, the official bank of paradise.
Citizens of Trinidad and Tobago were shaken up by a 6.2 magnitude earthquake on Tuesday evening. The jolt caused goods to be thrown off supermarket shelves and forced many to run out onto the streets. The Seismic Research Center of the St. Augustine campus of the University of the West Indies said the quake, which occurred at about 5:42 p.m. on Tuesday, was located at a depth of 29 kilometers. There have been no reports of injuries or damages. Former Cuban leader Fidel Castro was laid to rest in his hometown of Santiago de Cuba on Sunday. The defiant communist leader's final resting place is a giant granite boulder. However, he has requested that neither his image nor his name be immortalized in any way. On Friday, CARICOM observed the 44th anniversary of diplomatic relations with Cuba. CARICOM chairman and Prime Minister of Dominica, Roosevelt Skerrit, visited Cuba to participate in a commemorative event at the Jose Marti Revolutionary Square in Havana last Thursday as part of Cuba's 9 days of official mourning. The CARICOM chairman highlighted that the regional body has long been a friend of Cuba, even in the very early stages of the economic and trade embargo.
The pages of history record that in every century there has emerged at least one larger-than-life personality who captures the imagination and attention of the world, if only for the unique boldness in pursuing the extraordinary and for the shockwaves they generate in confronting oppression and the established order. Fidel Castro, the acknowledged leader of the Cuban Revolution, was one such person. I feel privileged to have been able to call him a friend and mentor.
He also went on to point out that Fidel Castro's sense of neighborliness stretched beyond his country's borders by selflessly sharing Cuba's resources with his Caribbean neighbors.
It is difficult to identify a sector in any of our economies that Cuba and Comrade Fidel have not impacted for the better. I can say without fear of being contradicted that our health systems would be the poorer but for the generous hand of Fidel at critical times in our development. We have recognized that contribution by awarding him our highest honor, the Order of the Caribbean Community, in 2008, the only non-CARICOM citizen to whom it has been accorded.
Meanwhile, President-elect of the United States, Donald Trump, is already being lobbied to have a change of heart in reversing measures agreed since the U.S. and Cuba got back on good terms. More than 100 Cuban business leaders have written to the real estate mogul turned president-in-waiting, appealing to him to reconsider his plan to scrap the allowances granted to Cuba since diplomatic ties resumed between both countries. Cuba hopes to sign 12 agreements with the U.S. before Mr. Trump takes office on January 20, 2017. Coming up on JTV News, employers' non-payment of national health insurance contributions hit their employees hard. BVI bloggers getting heat for taking things too far, and an update on that deadly motor vehicle crash in Virgin Gorda last week. And Hot Trends with Sophie B will show you where to go to fulfill your Christmas shopping needs.
It's the most wonderful time to stay connected with Flow. Join our new super fast LTE mobile network and enjoy the new Samsung Galaxy S7 with a chance to win a VR headset or Alcatel Pixie 4 with free move band from as low as $49 and get double data when you activate a select prepaid or postpaid data or combo plan. All this plus free gifts and cash to be won with Flow this wonderful Christmas. So visit us in store today.
Wonderful time of the year.
What's your idea of holiday happiness?
Watching the kids open presents. Preparing for a new arrival.
The look on his face.
Add to your holiday happiness with a Scotia Plan loan from Scotiabank. You could win cash and more. Get your loan today at your nearest branch. Conditions apply.
Welcome back to JTV News. It goes without saying that online news sites use the blog feature to amass a large fan base and have garnered great social authority from these bloggers. Bloggers are online influencers who create the traffic required for these sites to rise to popularity one way or another. But blogging in a small society such as the BVI has been a topical issue for quite some time now, with many saying that the right to speak namelessly should have limits. Kathy Richards has been exploring the issue and tells us more.
The guys on the block find it comfortable just congregating at strategic points in their communities, in their words, just cooling or shooting the breeze. They find the time to do the regular guys chat and in many instances even get involved in discussions related to politics and matters of country. One thing they outrightly deny is being involved in criminal activities, but they find themselves being targeted because of bloggers. JTV News took this topic to the man in the street.
Blogging it's a great way to express oneself, and of course, blogging over the years we've been kept away from expressing ourselves in whatever way, shape or form. So blogging in a positive way is a good thing.
So it gives freedom of speech to some people who generally wouldn't speak out. And for that, I think I'm okay with it. Where I do have some challenges that I think with free speech comes a great degree of responsibility.
And while we may agree that freedom of speech or the right to freely express one's opinion should not be stifled, at what point should a plug be pulled on what bloggers are allowed to express in public space?
And where people are taking other people's identity and then making comments under that identity, that's a cyber police matter, because that therein you have something called fraud, where people are fraudulently using identity to make comment and people will in return think it's use.
I also think if you follow some of the blogs, people are implicated on them. And how do you defend that when people are accusing you of something that you have no knowledge of? And so I think the responsibility is on the outlets to ensure that certain things aren't published.
So what course of action persons who are victims of bloggers have at their disposal? Attorney at law Ayana Holt sheds some light.
What people don't understand is when they go on these websites and make those comments, some of them are very defamatory and they create an imputation which is likely to lower that particular person in the estimation of right-thinking people. It can injure your reputation. If the news media themselves or any particular news medium doesn't take the right precaution and the duty of care to make sure that bloggers aren't going behind their computers or in cyberspace or somewhere and using that opportunity to say something to someone that they couldn't otherwise say to them, then they too can be held liable.
So the next time you go to your computer or smartphone to blog, remember that while exercising your right of freedom of expression, you are also expected to do so responsibly or run the risk of being unmasked. For JTV News, I'm Kathy Richards.
It's official. The National Health Insurance NHI has stayed true to its word to suspend services from some 1,000 employees as a result of their employers' failure to pay up. Emotions ran high a few weeks ago when the National Health Insurance NHI announced that they were moving to suspend medical coverage for employees of 1,000 employers consequent to their failure to pay contributions. This sparked heated discussions in all sections of the community, many claiming that workers should not be the ones made to suffer for their errant bosses. Some argued that in most cases, employers would have already deducted their employees' portion of the contributions from their paychecks. Nonetheless, the NHI stood their ground, starting the suspension process on November 28, 2016. What head of the NHI, Mr. Roy Barry, told us here at JTV News is that before and after making their intentions public, they were in constant dialogue with employers, admonishing them to honor their lawful obligations to the NHI and their employees. He told us that many moved swiftly to put their houses in order, but others failed to heed the warning. Barry hadn't the figures at hand to say exactly what percentage of the 1,000 employers are still lacking, and neither could he say how many coverages have been suspended to date. JTV News also sought from the head of the NHI the length of the suspension, but while he was unable to give the definite dates, he was sure to note that their next step would be to take legal action against defaulters. The suspension will be revoked only when the employers fulfill their obligations to the NHI. The sudden tragic death of Calbert Brown and Dexter Cotoy have left their families in mourning. They were two strong, vibrant men said to be in the prime of their lives as they lived and worked away from their homelands. While their deaths came as a hard blow to their families, two total strangers, tourists, will never forget that fateful afternoon.
As the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force continues its investigations of the tragic accident of November 28, which claimed the lives of two residents of Virgin Gorda, British Virgin Islands, latest word is that at least two tourists witnessed the incident.
That's an evening that we're all still a little uncomfortable with.
There are Calbert Brown, also known as Budja, a native of St. Vincent, and Dexter Cotoy, also known as Decky, a native of Guyana. They were found lifeless some 150 feet downhill off the cliff which overlooks the Savannah Bay beach in the wee morning hours of November 28, 2016. Two tourists aboard a vessel making its way into the Savannah Bay beach area saw a car airborne and made a desperate call to 911.
At just after 6 o'clock, we received a call from a tourist at Savannah Bay, and he said that he saw a vehicle hurtling over a cliff.
The fire department responded quickly, as explained by Chief of Fire Officer Zebulon McLean.
He called the 911 line, which was answered by our guys, who contacted the police officers and the Virgin Gorda fire officers. A crew of our officers went to the scene and they started a search. They were actually heading in towards the beach. They were in some sort of craft out on the water, and while heading to the beach, they were almost on the shore when they saw this vehicle come. As the gentleman said, it was airborne.
That search took quite some time as the vehicle landed in an area with dense bushes, making it very challenging for the rescue parties.
Basically, the police and the fire officers had to make their own road and get to the vehicle, but eventually it was recovered.
Several persons, including friends and workmates, described the search as an experience they would rather not have ever again. For JTV News, Kathy Richards.
And it's time to check in with Sophie B to find out what's buzzing in hot trends to help you get all your Christmas shopping done.
It's a treat to be here with you today, but tell us a little bit about Infinity.
Infinity, primarily a bridal store, wedding store, but there is a new section about maybe 4 or 5 years ago, expanded recently though, and it is a cake section that we're going to talk about today. Right. And it is filled with everything from your cake boxes, primarily the cupcakes, because that's a big thing here in the BVI. And I know it has been made popular by Cake Boss and the Food Network, but we've tried our best. We actually have 2 sections that caters to cupcakes in our store. And starting at the top, your primary colors for Christmas, these are edible flakes. And you can use these to decorate your cupcakes, even on cakes as well. And we have them in the primary colors of gold, we have royal blue, we have green, silver, white. And then we have the cupcakes. Some people call them the baking cups, or they call them liners. Another great lifesaver for our customers have been saying they don't have to put 2 or 3 pans in the oven anymore. This is 48. This allows you to bake 48 mini cupcakes in one go. Wow. Sophie, this would be your area because this will save you time.
Yes, Lord.
I do want to say money as well, but these decorations, these edible icing decorations are for the bakers who don't have the time or just allow someone else to be creative for them. We have ice and sugar, and we have the cookie sheets. Now, again, you made up the batter for the cookie. Maybe you don't even want to, it just even saves you having to get the cookie cutter, Once you put the batter in here, it comes out in the shape.
It takes the shape of the pan.
Right.
Nice.
So that even allows you to
bacon this.
Yes. Infinity is in the Ward building, and that's right across from the post office. What let's say the building between Super Value and the post office. Open Monday through Friday, 9 until 5:30, and on Saturdays from 9 until. Actually, we're going to stay open until 4, up until Christmas Eve.
So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Infinity, your one-stop shop for all your baking supplies, everything that you need to make your treats, your goodies this holiday season. And, of course, if you want to do a little bit of decorations in terms of your wreaths and so forth.
You can catch Hot Trends Wednesdays and Fridays at 8 p.m. right here on JTV Channel 55. And up next in our Medical Minute, decoding the dates on food packages.
The only things that are required by federal law to have an expiration date are infant formulas and some baby foods. If they're past that expiration date, throw them out.
Dr. Geronimo Jones is next with that report from the Mayo Clinic. Stay tuned.
Eureka, located in the British Virgin Islands. Come, discover Eureka Medical Clinic, which provides the most complete medical services in the Virgin Islands. Our state-of-the-art clinic offers the highest quality in specialty care, cardiology, gastroenterology, orthopedics, and spinal surgery. We also offer specialty care in obstetrics and gynecology, as well as dermatology. Eureka Medical Clinic offers diagnostic procedures such as x-rays, mammograms, CAT scans, and all forms of ultrasound exams. Now, for the first time in the BVI, Eureka offers MRI scanning too. With colonoscopy and gastroscopy, we check the intestines and stomach for polyps, colon cancer, and ulcers too. Located at Geneva Place in the heart of Road Town, Eureka Medical Clinic with Medicare Pharmacy and Labs offers you a comprehensive medical facility all under one roof. So for high-quality medical services and convenience, there's no need to look any further. Eureka! You found it.
Decoding food dates according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. There is no uniform or universally accepted system used for food dating across America. There are some common freshness codes stamped on items in stores, but the information can be confusing. In this Mayo Clinic Minute, dietitian Angie Murad decodes the dates and explains that most don't know anything to do with expiration. Jeff Olson reports.
All of these products are stamped with dates, but only this one is a true expiration.
The only things that are required by federal law to have an expiration date are infant formulas and some baby foods. If they're past that expiration date, throw them out.
Mayo Clinic dietitian Angie Murad says most of the markings we see on foods are simply suggestions. That includes this sell-by date. It's a recommendation for retailers.
The sell-by date tells the store exactly how long they can display the product on their shelves.
The best if used by stamp is a suggestion for consumers about how long a product will maintain its best flavor. A used by mark is determined by the manufacturer and is considered the final peak freshness date for the product.
So if you use it before or at the day, you'll have the best and highest quality product.
And you can use it after that day if you store it safely.
In the proper temperatures at either refrigerator or in your freezer.
For the Mayo Clinic News Network, I'm Jeff Olson.
And before we go, a brief look at the main headlines. BVI Premier says revenue intake is down in the financial services and the 2017 budget will be delayed until January to review spending. BVI opposition leader blasts the Premier for being disingenuous in his national address and not telling the whole truth. National Health Insurance Scheme suspends persons from the program whose employers have failed to turn over their contributions. And in regional news, 6.2 magnitude earthquake rocks Trinidad and Tobago with no reports of injuries or damages. And more than 100 Cuban businesses lobby U.S. President-elect Donald Trump to reconsider his plan to reverse the deals reached between Cuba and the United States since both countries resumed being friends. And just a reminder that you can find all the news stories featured in this newscast as well as previous newscasts on our website jtvlive.net. Additional information and news updates can be found on our Facebook page, facebook.com/JTV55. If you haven't already, please visit our Facebook page to let us know that you like us. Of course, all our news features, press conferences, and JTV's television programs can be found on our JTV News YouTube channel. Subscribe for daily uploads. We welcome your questions and comments. Email us at jtvnews@hotmail.com. On behalf of the entire news production team, I'm PTK Coombs. Thank you for watching.